open the window and influenza.
Yeah, man. Well, wow. I don't know where to begin. There's so much to say.
Well, I mean, you were talking today, and I think our best conversations are on the phone because
Yeah, I
it's
know.
not planned. And
Yeah, it's been like
right?
that. We were about 12 years old. Yeah, about 8 years old. Yeah, sure.
We just come out and talk. So
when we used to call you Shimer, I think. Yeah, those are our best.
yeah, you guys had some odd nicknames to me.
Yeah. Lost to heaven, for goodness sake.
You also said I look like Damien from The Omen.
Oh,
which
sure. I
did.
just reminded my family of that. I just showed them a clip from Omen 3. Yeah, and I said, look, that's Stephen when he was younger. And he becomes the Antichrist, or, well, someone who looked like Stephen. But, yeah, man. Yeah, we used to imitate the last scene, man. Gregory Peck. We were me and Clifford Gregory
Please don't
Peck.
kill me, right?
Yeah, you were Damien, man. Yeah. Please, Daddy,
You
don't
guys
kill me. Yeah.
You had me with that for a long time there.
I don't know why, man. But, it's funny.
I guess I like the attention.
Yeah, but that was the scariest movie I think I've ever seen. Before The Exorcist.
It was very subtle. That's why it was so scary.
I don't know.
It wasn't like action-packed, you know?
Yeah, I think maybe scary is not the right word, but suspenseful. It's probably about the most suspenseful. The funny thing is people are so jaded now. I just showed my son The Godfather, and he didn't bat an eye. But I mean, it's funny. In 1972, I was this dates me, about 6 years old. My was 72, 73. My parents took a drive to Disney World, and they took that long, hot drive without the AC, but with the windows open, and we're dying, dying for gnats,
Wow.
in the mouth, we're swallowing gnats on the way, the boringest drive in the world, nothing but pine trees, man. There's nothing to see, man.
That's a big trip.
Especially around south of the border, man. Oh my goodness, Pedro, south of the border. Yeah, but anyway, we drove there. And we stopped in northern Florida. Funny, they left Phil at home. Phil was born, but they didn't want to deal with Phil, so they left him with, I think, Uncle Matty, actually. Tito, Gloria, and Uncle Matty, yeah. Yeah, and he woke them up in the middle of the night. I think he put something in Uncle Matty's mouth or something like that, yeah. Yeah, they just left him then, and they took me, they took the eldest. But the funny thing is, so we stopped around, I would imagine around Daytona, and my parents had a brilliant idea, There were different times back then. They took me to see this new movie called The Godfather, okay, when it first came out.
Right.
Can you believe that? Yeah. And I had my father on one side and my mother on the other side, and they were both holding my eyes like throughout the whole movie, and I was terrified. All right. Now, these kids, I mean, you could show them the inside, the innards of a mass of people, and it would do nothing to them. It's just weird.
No.
I think it's social media, man. I don't know what it is.
They are desensitized. They saw much more than us, but show him The Exorcist. He'll freak out on that.
I don't know. I showed a bunch of my friends at Oxford The Exorcist. But it has to do with what your preliminary assumptions are. If you believe in God and you believe that there's about the wages of sin, that we're going to come before judgment, and we either go one way or the next. As St. Paul said, a tree falls to the north or the south, but it does fall. Meaning, we go one way or the other way, and we will die. And so they were just, I had a bunch of Oxford friends. A lot of them were from France and England and from the States and from India, and they were just laughing their heads off. And I was like, oh, I was still terrified. Ah, it's unbelievable. Anyway, yeah. So
some people laugh as a defensive mechanism,
Yeah, so I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but anyway. Yeah, so it's funny because as we were leaving the movie theater, there were a bunch of, you have to applaud them. I'm on their side, not my parents' side. They looked at my parents and they said, "How dare you bring a child to a movie like this?" They said that to my parents.
They were right.
Yeah, they were right. Yeah, there you go. But the suspense of the movie, I think that's what it was. I had this fear of something.
I can't comprehend that movie.
I could at 6. An impending doom throughout the movie, and it had this eerie feel. Maybe it dramatized more dramatically. Has a more dramatic impact because we were in a theater and you're seeing it for the first time. And the same thing with The Omen, by the way. With The Omen, we saw that in the, what was it called? Whitestone Drive-In, sorry. Yeah. Right. And I was terrified, I have to say. That was like the scariest thing I've ever seen.
I mean, See, that movie will have mass appeal for everyone. I don't care if you're 5 years old or 40.
No,
You're
but
afraid. There's
it depends.
something with the deep.
It depends if you have.
Godfather's about dialogue family, and you have to follow that. And
Depends if
not
you have
everyone could follow
a
that.
fear and a love and a fear of the loss of the love of God. That's what it depends on. If you don't have that, then it's just one big joke.
Well, if you don't believe in God, the whole devil thing is silly to you. I mean,
Yeah.
evil doesn't make any sense. So
Yeah.
if you have the battle between good and evil, and that's ingrained in your mind, and you know it's a continuous struggle, then it plays on you. If you're an atheist, you might not believe, I don't know, I could be wrong, but you might not believe that there is a such thing as the devil. I'm sure they believe there are people that are evil, but it definitely hits home much more.
No, but it's just like what it says in the Bible. I think it's in Isaiah. Woe unto those who call good evil, evil good, light for dark, dark for light.
No, that's obvious.
It's unbelievable.
But
I
you
mean,
could be an
the whole
atheist
thing with this Ginsburg
good and
situation and the fear of overturning Roe v. Wade, we have a complete breakdown of the political left because they think it's good for a woman to have a right to determine the life or death of a baby in their womb. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a form of feminism. I don't know which wave, first wave, second or third, but it's a form of saying, hey, I am in total control of my body and my actions. Men do not have any impact on what I want to do. And I guess their argument would be men have trapped women over centuries for, just keep them pregnant in the kitchen. That's an obvious argument, but there's so much else before that. Nowadays, with the freedoms that women have, they're equivalent to men. You don't have to be with someone you don't want to be with, especially, in America, we're talking. Don't have sex with people you don't think maybe you could marry, I guess. Or, the church is probably right. I mean, I'm a sinner and I'm not proud of it, but the church is probably right. Maybe you only have intercourse when you get married, I guess. That would be the foolproof way of doing it, right?
So it's meant to be.
And you get married.
Don't get me wrong, we're sinners.
Have a child, right?
We've had our romances. We can't say that we're not sinners. And
yes,
we try our best, especially as the certainty of death approaches us. I think we're trying our best to live as pure life as we possibly can, right? So anyway,
I forget who said it. Maybe Taylor Marshall, I could be wrong, or someone he interviewed, and he said, you get married because you love this woman or man, and you're swept off your feet. You do it to procreate, and that child takes precedent over the wife and husband, and that is what forms a family. Don't get me wrong, you love your husband and wife, but that is why you get married. It's not, hey, I love their bank account, or I love the way she looks, I'm really enamored by her beauty, and other things. So, once you value life, as I had a discussion with a politician, a Marine, and a guy has a law degree from an Ivy League school, getting up there in age. I hope I didn't call him out here. But, if you don't value life, if life is not the center of our existence, and it's not why we're here and how we need to function by loving one another just like ourselves, then you have nothing. And I was telling him this, if that's the case, then, if you don't value the unborn, what is life and death? And then where do we go from there? You have the killing fields.
We shouldn't get into this. It's not even a difficult theological.
No, it's actually
it's actually very simple. So simple, it's hard to articulate. Sometimes the more simple things. I feel that way. Like when they say the president does nothing but when lies, but CNN, MSNBC, and Biden and everyone else is telling the truth. I don't know what to say about that. Like, share this with an email. An email note, sent a message, share, like I need something. And Cher said about everyone losing their soul. Mitt Romney's losing their soul, and everyone is losing their soul. I'm like, But I mean, terminate having the perfect right for someone to decide the life and death of the most innocent of the human family, that seems to be closer to the idea of losing your soul, more risk of losing your soul than what Cher is talking about, than defending that most innocent and weakest of all life.
Well, you become God. You could take.
So I don't know what morality is to people. I have no idea what that means. But anyway,
I don't know why this obsession, Chris. We discussed this many moons ago with Bill Clinton. What he said, abortion should be what? Rare. What he said?
Rare,
okay.
fair,
to the point where we have people in Hollywood who would wear shirts or brag that they had an abortion. I mean, how did we come to that? Even in any movie we saw in the 70s, it was a serious moral conundrum. If someone got pregnant, it was, oh, what should we do? This wasn't planned. She's not my girlfriend. And it was gut-wrenching to, do something like that. Now it's almost like just having a glass of water. I mean, it's an everyday occurrence, and why should you care? I just don't get it. And as we discussed, there must be a definite push by Satan to make this the norm.
Well, you're not going to then convince the political left about that because they don't believe in God. Actually, they respect Satan more than they do the Christian
well, they
God.
probably do, because in some ways they believe that Satan is the light, right? And you're unshackled. Do whatever you want.
He's liberated us, right? For the chains placed upon us by the Judeo-Christian morality.
Right.
Or the deity that we worship, right? It puts shackles on us, like, the shackles placed on women, not to, as a matter of convenience, not to terminate the life of the unborn, the most precious of all human family. Huh?
It's never spoken about? All the variables and actions that take place to get pregnant. There's none of that talk. I mean, say I'm out of touch, but there's none of that talk about, it's against the church, but if premarital sex, maybe you protect yourself if you're going to do that. And chances of getting pregnant are really slim.
So you believe that contraception is a lesser evil than abortion itself? That's what we're saying.
That would have to be the case, and I never even thought of it that way. But, I mean, is it that easy?
It seems logical, but God's ways are not our ways.
Right. Well, yeah, I could be totally wrong, and damn to,
Well, let's not talk about abortion too much.
Right, New York.
I just want to say one thing here. Okay, so I brought up The Godfather because I was watching this with my child who loved the movie, and that movie brings tears to my eyes. It's weird. I know it's about a mafia family, and I know my family has bloodlines to the family that it's based on, from Frank Costello to the Genovese crime family. And we were the Morello crime family that began the mafia in the United States, beginning in the Bronx, right? And then we established ourselves in Dallas as well too. Anyway, aside from that, but it's weird, but at the same time, it also displayed a New York that was so rich in culture and in texture, and even in family values. That's the distinguishing aspect of the whole movie, and that's what's so moving about it. I feel like it's a New York that we never really knew. We just got a little taste of it in the early part of our life because we were raised in the 1970s for the most part and 1980s. And hell came upon us in the Bronx, New York, and the Northeast Bronx, in the United States as a whole, and especially in New York, that came out of the 1960s and almost didn't survive the 1970s. So we can address that, and also, if you can contrast that, The Godfather that portrays a New York of my dreams. It was so beautiful with the backdrop of Sinatra, jazz, and the music, and Dempsey's
a hat.
Yeah, Dempsey's place. I think it was in Times Square, and Sugar Ray's right in Harlem. Right, am I wrong? I mean, you had Jake LaMotta and Sugar Ray Robinson, about the greatest fighters who ever were, like living a couple of blocks from each other. Right, am I wrong about that? in the middle of the Bronx. It's weird,
Yeah,
strange.
Sugar Ray Robinson went to Clinton High School. I told you that. And my father told me, and everything my father has told me is checked out. Honestly, everything. This is
Bobby
what I
Darin was up from there for Bronx Science.
Well, Bobby Darin is a Bronx kid who my dad went to Hunter College with.
Oh,
which is
yeah.
Yeah, he's a Bronx kid, born in Manhattan, but lived in the Bronx.
Yeah. Stan Lee,
Sugar Ray Robinson.
Bob
Sugar Ray Robinson
invented Batman.
Hold on. Sugar Ray Robinson would drive by my father's building in the South Bronx, and my father said he frequently had a pink Cadillac.
Yeah, the pink Cadillac, of course.
Pink. And he would give my father, let's say, 50 and say, hey, watch my car, because he had a girlfriend or something up there.
Oh, so, he was a beautiful looking guy. I have to say, between Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson, incredibly good looking. Trust me, I love.
They had it all. They had it all.
No one loves women more than me, but if I could just admire.
No, they had it all.
Yeah.
They had it all.
But I mean, they had the gift of the gab, they had the style. Sometimes I think Muhammad was patting himself, was certainly inspired, but maybe his persona kind of took on persona of Sugar Ray Robinson.
Well, they said his persona, the bragging, he got from a guy, Gorgeous George, who was a wrestler, who used to talk and pontificate. He implemented that into his style, the talking, poetry, I believe. So, yeah, that's a known fact that's been established. But it's funny. I don't want to get derailed.
New York, there. That's and then fast forward. What was it? 2 years ago, when Cuomo and De Blasio lit up the Empire State Building with pink in celebration of the legislation to murder a baby in its ninth month. And now we're not even talking the second trimester. We're talking about the 9th month. Oh,
when that supposedly, I read an article on that. I had to do some deep checking, which I got from awesome.
Yeah.
And that was just, I mean, all deals are off after that. How could that be? Like, is this we stayed a form of sacrifice? I mean, I don't understand.
Of course it is.
That.
It's the great ancient evil. You saw what I've been writing. It's the great ancient
I know.
evil.
You know, like the Canaanites, right?
The sacrifice of babies to Moloch. And it goes up. It's the most innocent of all life. And
I can't comprehend it.
And not only that, there's also a lust for blood. There's a bloodlust for children. And it doesn't even stop when they survive the trauma of birth at the hands of the radical left and radical feminists. If they survive that ordeal, then there's a problem with sex trafficking and abused in so many ways, or from the violence in the streets that are once again perpetuated by liberal policies, right? Yeah. And a culture that's become acidic, that's become an enemy of the traditional family and the values of the church and the core values. You can even go to the core values of the Constitution itself.
What is very telling,
which I think is in many ways divinely inspired. But
what is very telling, more African Americans, I've heard this on numerous occasions, are aborted than are born.
Yeah,
I mean that's more African American.
80%
are aborted.
Of Planned Parenthoods are based in Black communities. This is what I've heard, and there have been at least, I think it's probably more, at least 22 million Black babies that have been murdered since Roe v. Wade. So I think Roe v. Wade is the curse upon America. It's the bane of America. It's the pox upon America. And if we lift that by the grace of God, it's only going to be by the grace of God. There's so much that's going to, I can't believe 2020 has turned out the way that it has. The worst year I've ever experienced. All of us have experienced. And there's much more left and much more drama to come. But if we survive this by the grace of God and we overturn Roe v. Wade, I feel, and which is prophetic messages that have been coming to people, I think there's a curse upon America that's going to be lifted. And if the curse upon America is lifted, then the curse upon Western Europe and traditional democracies, and maybe even Japan, and maybe even India, will be lifted as well too. And I don't say the whole world is going to be better, but there are a couple of countries that are going to push back the slouching towards Gomorrah, the onward descent.
Yes.
That's been
By Robert.
that's the onward descent, sent into purgatory, if not into hell. That's been pushed upon us by absurd, even evil policies over the last 100 years. And there you go.
Yeah, I mean, these policies, we talked about this on numerous occasions. I mean, the welfare state, how they destroyed the family. Family values do not matter anymore. There's not an intact family structure in many cities. And then you have Black Lives Matter that want to push anti-nuclear family, an anti-nuclear family platform. I mean, it makes no sense. It's obvious to say, if they continue, let's say the poor, and I'm not judging any group, black, white, Latin, Asian, if you keep doing what you continuously do, you will get the same results. So if you shun education, if you have children young, if you participate in illegal activities, and you will fail in this society. This society asks of you to be present and to be a decent citizen. And we're not talking about being a Supreme Court justice or a brain surgeon, but maybe a mailman or a butcher, or you could live a good life. And too many are living on the outskirts of the American dream. They're not buying into the system. I've known this since I was 14 years old.
All right, bringing it back to New York.
Question let's bring it back.
What's happening in New York?
Well,
beggars belief. And number two, I need to ask you, what is their end game?
Yeah. What is happening in New York? It would be very
details. It's hard for me to believe what's happening. It's like
it's
essentially Nero setting fire to Rome. That's what we're happy from.
It's very difficult to pontificate.
Seattle, Portland, maybe Chicago, LA, and New York. That's what seems to me.
Difficult to pontificate without numbers and facts and evidence, and I have that. But I'll tell you, early on during the coronavirus, I had a friend who was delivering food. He was an essential worker. And I had no money coming in. I said, hey, I'll offer you my car, meaning I'll drive you around. You give me half the take. You know, let's say in a day he made 100 for 5 hours, 6 hours, I take 100. I pay for gas, what have you. So we were driving around the city, let's say probably starting in April, did it for about a month. And it was really sad to see. It almost looked like one of the dystopian movies we grew up with, like Escape from New York, or,
Warriors.
Yeah, that's what came to my mind, Escape from New York.
And Warriors.
Well, Warriors was New York, it wasn't shut down. Escape from New York, it was shut down.
Taken over by the gangs, right?
Yeah. Escape from New York was, as you know, they built like a wall around New York and you couldn't get in.
Well, around Manhattan, I think. Yeah,
it was Manhattan. You couldn't get out. It was like a large prison. The borough became unmanageable, so they put all the undesirables there, and it was like being in a prison. So it was very shocking for me to see that maybe 90% of the stores were closed, 90% of the restaurants were closed. There were very few people on the street.
Is that the way it is now?
What's that?
Is that the way it is now?
No, it's coming back now, but I'm trying to give you a picture of how it was.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about probably a 98% decrease in population, where my friend would have to pick up food and a homeless guy would come to me and I'd give him a couple bucks. Yeah, it was like, it was almost peaceful if you didn't know why the streets were barren. But there, you could park your car anywhere. Cars weren't on the street. Maybe 1% of the cars that you would see in a normal time. 1% of the population were on the street. I took fantastic photos because you could be in the middle of the street taking whatever photo you want. 90% of the stores were closed. I saw a lot of homeless people. So when someone approached your car who was homeless, it was kind of shocking because you're like, okay, is this guy okay? Give him a couple dollars. It was fine. I felt bad for those people because these are people who live on the street. And if people aren't walking the street, giving them some change or a couple dollars, what were they going to do? so they were going to be worse off than me. But the numbers are very telling. For example, I got this, let me give you a number here. Mount Troutman from the Patch staff. It's a website. Just give you numbers. August 26th, so about 3 weeks ago in New York, the unemployment in New York is 20%. So 2 out of 10 unemployed. Last year at this time, it was 4.3. And this is from the Department of Labor stats. So New York, the state, lost 1.34 million jobs in the private sector and government jobs. And 715,000 of these jobs are in New York. So imagine losing 715,000 jobs. How many New Yorkers are there?
You broke my heart. You broke my heart when you suggested that Lord and Taylor was closing down.
Lord and
what
Taylor.
An elegant store. Is it closing down? Please.
Oh, yeah.
I hope not.
Oh, you're going to wait till you hear this. The Lord and Taylor, that beautiful 10-story building on Fifth Avenue. Guess who bought it? Amazon for $1 billion.
So
Century 21's
Lord and Taylor is over there.
I don't know if they're probably restructuring. There's different types of bankruptcy.
But the building is not going to be destroyed, is it?
No. Amazon bought it. And that's a gem of a building.
No, I know. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. So that has been bought by Amazon. Century 21, the discount store, filed for bankruptcy. I believe Neiman Marcus is having a terrible time
at it. What about like Bergdorf? What about
Bergdorf? I haven't heard anything. I think there's.
What about the Plaza? What about the Waldorf?
Still around. The Waldorf, my friend's sister was the manager there, and it was purchased by a Chinese group, but they couldn't get financing. They were doing some work, so I think someone else bought it. Currently, it's in limbo. It's vacant, which is an eyesore in New York. I mean, the Waldorf, there should be so much activity out there, right? It's really sad when you lose those gems.
To me, this is Armageddon. What you're saying here. My lust for life is out the window, I have to say. And the same thing is happening in London, I can imagine. Certainly in Paris. We have no desire to go back to Paris. Because in Paris, you may get arrested
you live in Paris,
not having a mask correctly. I don't like to walk all day long around with a mask. And then you're going to run into the 18-year-olds or so, more or less, who are demanding and crying for Marxism, and then they met the yellow vest, met by the yellow vest, the Gilets Jaunes, who are marching around. Well, I'm just saying, who are marching around, and God knows what they want. We have a little bit of a compunction to join the Gilets Jaunes if they were a little bit more clear about their position, but we have no idea what they want. They just want change. I have no idea what that means. I'm not going to burn down Paris and sacrifice their own hide unless they're clear about what they want. And it's never been articulated. It seems also to have been taken on by Mélenchon and the communistas who dream about the great socialist utopia that Robespierre dreamt about 220 so years ago. Unbelievable.
Right.
There you go. This breaks my heart. What's going to happen to Yankee Stadium? What's going to happen to the Met? What's going to happen to the American Museum of Natural History? What's going to happen to these
the Guggenheim
class institutions?
I was by the Guggenheim last week and it was closed still. The Met is open, but you have to wear a mask and schedule an appointment.
You're talking about the Metropolitan Museum of Art, or are you talking about
Metropolitan Museum of Art?
What about Lincoln Center? Who's going to come to Lincoln Center anymore?
Those aren't open. No. So let me just give you the unemployment numbers in the Bronx. According to the Department of Labor, 24.9. It's the highest unemployment. So 1 out of 4. Brooklyn 20.4, Queens 20.5, Manhattan 15.9. So the unemployment is very high. That means people are getting benefits. And we talked about this all the time. How about crime in New York? We talk about shootings. And from your paper that you used to carry on the train, the New York Times, September 2nd, 2020.
Almost killed for that paper many a times.
I know. August shootings in New York, 242 shootings, up from 91 last year. 242 to 91. And since May, New York has recorded 791 shootings, more than 140% increase over the same period in 2019. Arrest numbers are down. 9/11 response calls, I guess, have been delayed. There's talk because of the anti-cop movements that police are not answering these calls on time. Maybe they letting it burn, letting these cities, be sabotaged for this. How you doing?
Little Monica Bellucci here.
Yes, Monica Bellucci. Yeah.
I had a family full of tears today. What a year this has turned out. Our
All right.
dog, we just took our dog to the vet, and he was diagnosed with cancer, and so he's on the operating table as we speak. So we're just terrified. We're worried that it may spread. He probably finished, yeah, but we'll see tomorrow what the fate of our beautiful little puppy is, Bogey. Yeah. So a little shout out and a little toast to my little puppy. Such an important member of the family.
Of course.
Okay. Anyway, go ahead, please tell me.
In 2020, there's been 280 murders, a 35% increase. And you mentioned Chicago, a 22% increase in murders, and New Orleans, where I'll be tomorrow, a 44% increase in murders. And
this is Armageddon. I mean, is there any end in sight here? I mean, are these numbers projected to go on ad infinitum? Well, okay, there you go. Until they get what they want, and this just begs the question: what do they want? This is obviously not organic. This is by design. That's what we're saying here.
I'm talking about BLM and Antifa, of course.
I'm talking about de Blasio.
Yes.
Who's as close to a communist as the American system could tolerate it.
Well, that's a question we have. He's a Marxist. So if he's a Marxist or a communist, he's anti-business, right? Yeah. Is he looking just to push the Green New Deal, where most New Yorkers will just live off the government in a welfare state?
Okay, here's this very simple question from my beautiful wife here. Okay, let's say they get what they want, and they may get what they want worldwide. They have a worldwide communist system where they destroy business. Well, how do they get money? How do they generate wealth? I don't understand anything.
Well, I wanted to say one thing here. Please. Cash bail, 90% of defendants go home before trial. That's a new thing that's being pushed by the DA.
New York. It's wonderful to be a criminal today.
Before that, you could correct it. It says the number is 75% used to go home before their trial. This is from John Jay College. So 90 to 75% from John Jay College. They're saying people don't have to post bail anymore. I know there's been a push by DAs, especially in New York, not to have to post bail. I guess these would be non-violent offenders.
Yeah.
But they go back into the general public.
The typical child rapist, non-violent, right? Yeah,
I don't know what that entails, but
the typical, burn, loot, right?
Right. So, you brought up Soros, who I read about, has spent over $17 million, I believe, in the last 5 years, supporting DAs who will be more in line with giving people, having them abolished at cash bail. Yeah. So he's done this in Missouri. We know about the family who protected their home with their guns. Mm-hmm. They spoke at the convention. Right. She wasn't too kind to them. And it went against everything we know as America. You're able to protect your home, Second Amendment, right? Yeah. These people were on their property, even talking about killing their dogs and doing harm to them. They came out with guns and they were vilified.
On a very personal matter. Yes. On a very personal matter, this is what I need to get. I need to get a feel for what's happening in the streets of New York. You're right now in the streets of New York? You're in Harlem?
Yeah, well, I'm in the Bronx right here in Riverdale.
And you go to New York regularly?
Oh, yeah. I was there yesterday.
What's the feel and the mood in the street? How in the world do they not, for example, make the connection between the way New York was very recently, even right before this Wuhan virus epidemic, with all due respect, and after? How do they not make the connection between before and the policies of this governor and of this and of this mayor and of the wackadoo policies of Congress? Please tell me.
Yeah, well, you have those that don't want to put down Cuomo or de Blasio, and they'll blame it on Trump, saying...
what's the logic?
How
could it possibly be him?
He should have answered the Wuhan virus more efficiently. He should have done more, even though the facts and evidence don't back that up. For example, a friend of mine put something on Facebook, and what they put up there was praising Cuomo for his handling of the virus. And I said, you can't have it both ways. According to numbers, he's done a terrible job. More people in New York died than any other state, New York City. He put people in nursing homes that shouldn't have been there who had the virus. He kept talking about wanting ventilators. He got his ventilators. He didn't put any of the patients in the Jacob Javits Center or the makeshift hospital on the boat that Trump brought in. But he praised Trump, and so did Fauci. They said, you couldn't have done a better job. Then at the Democratic National Convention, he does a complete 180 and puts down Trump. I mean, that was disgusting to me. It's hard for me to even comprehend that, the way I grew up.
Yeah.
So you have one camp in that mode. Then you have another camp where I'm starting to see people rebel who are saying F Cuomo, F de Blasio. They are aware, they're in the know, that Cuomo was given carte blanche to do whatever he could for the virus. That's what Trump did. He was hands off. The governors take control and the mayors, and they're beginning to realize, wow, maybe these democratic policies do not work on a multitude of levels. When you have all of the New Yorkers fleeing, that was another number I was going to give you. I believe sales in Westchester were up 112%. in July and August. Sales in Westchester, people are moving into homes. People are moving to Jersey.
You mean property sales in Westchester?
Yes, so there's a flight.
Yeah.
It's that middle class or upper middle class flight. And the question is, what are you going to do when you have your socialist utopia and you don't have the people you need to pay for it? Then you have chaos. As Margaret Thatcher said, socialism is fantastic till you run out of other people's money. So my take is people are waking up. There are people who are saying, hey, where are you moving to? Yeah. It's almost like the norm.
Really?
Even before the coronavirus, let me just say one thing. This is very interesting. Even before the coronavirus, I told your brother to move. I'm going to miss your brother. I see him all the time. But I told him this a year ago. Taxes too high, taxes on his home too high, federal income tax, state. Said, move to Florida. You don't need the city anymore. You're more of, you go to a pool, the ocean, your kids. He wants to do that. Most of my brother's friends who do okay, have their own businesses, they're moving to Florida anyway, even before Corona. Yeah. They know, hey, make your money here and then get out. They all have homes in Florida, and that's going to be their home. They're not going to keep a home here. Yeah. So it's a natural progression that New Yorkers move to Florida. But Corona and the breakdown of the city, where anything goes, these liberal policies, I think, might even be too much for the normal person. People are going to move. They're going to move.
And what's the attitude about Black Lives Matter? About the movement of so-called social justice warriors?
I could just tell you in my limited knowledge, just from Instagram and Facebook, it's split. Mm-hmm. There are those that realize they are Marxists, BLM, they say it.
And now they're trying to change history. They're trying to erase that ideology. Like, for example, they declare that one of their goals is to destroy the traditional family, and now they're trying to wipe clean that aspect of their ideology.
Well,
which is still part of
it. People who study and aren't lazy know they want to break up the family. People who are not lazy see BLM harassing a senator or a congressman on the street or interrupting dinners. I don't know how many deaths, if any, they're responsible for. I have to research that, but the violence. People who are in the know that. As I told you, I had to speak to this politician who should be the cornerstone of a community. You went to Columbia Law, and he thinks Antifa is there really to stop the fascists. I said, show me the fascists and where Antifa comes to the rescue like Superman or Batman, getting that, the bat signal, and they're there. I said, they were causing riots, suppressing free speech with Ben Shapiro, Milo, and many others years ago. And they're violent. People have been killed by them. People have been given, as they say, concrete milkshakes. There was a reporter who's been hit over the head, and many others. So it's split, Chris. What I do find, I have to give you credit. I think I underestimated IQ. I really did. Because most of these people who are saying Antifa's okay and Trump's Hitler, I think they're on medication. There's something wrong with their home life. Their parents are probably, not stereotyping all of them, but their parents probably came from a family similar to the Addams family, where there's something wrong there. There's something wrong there, and you knew that. Think
so you're certainly of the idea that leftism is a medical condition. A mental disorder.
Well, Savage always said liberalism is a mental
Very
disorder.
interesting argument.
These are leftists.
Yeah,
These are leftists. Yeah.
We remember just, anecdotally, in our personal lives, we've come up with some of the primary criteria that leads people to the lunacy of the left. And that is people who have... And
they're not religious, anti-God.
Oh, there you go. We can say four things. So they're not religious. That is to say they don't have a necessary love, and we have to say fear of God. That's a tough philosophical.
True.
Because they don't believe that there are any consequences to actions. Okay, right. Philosophically, they typically believe that truth is relative. It's just of experience or of human will, and so what we call true is just some sort of a manifestation of will or a cultural phenomenon, and if it's by will, then it should just be something. It's like a language game that you play with in order to get the ends that you want. But the ends ultimately are, for example, class equality. The rule of the proletariat. But then it just begs the question on then what makes that good if there is no good. Let us say the truth of goodness to begin with. But anyway, we don't have to go into that. Right. The third one is they're from. I'm not sure if I said this, but from broken families, typically, right? Yeah. So, and typically invariably that means that there's a lack of a strong male figure, and the impact that has in discipline and particularly in moral order of a household. Of course, a woman.
Or they could have had weak parents.
A mother is fine. You can do that, but typically you need the two. That seems to be. We have a lot of evidence that nature. Since time, since the beginning of
even President
of human life seems to be structured in such a way, and much of the animal kingdom as well. Too, but we don't have to go there. The other one is also that they tend to be liberal in drug use, and particularly even marijuana or maybe drinking, but typically marijuana and what that does to initiative, discipline, and to academic excellence.
Depression.
The fifth one, it plays itself into depression as well too. Lethargy and depression. And the fifth one we notice is that they didn't grow up the way that we grew up playing sports, particularly competitive sports, and particularly team competitive sports, and what that does for teamwork and learning the mechanics of winning and how to lose in a decent way, and the humility involved in it, as well as the confidence involved in competitive sports. And the discipline required of it as well, too.
The ability to compete.
Yeah. And the ability to work with others towards a valuable end. We're not going to mental illness here. I'm sure there's also mental illness that's part of this, right? Anyway, there you go. Okay, and I'm sure there's, I don't know, that's an interesting one. What about academically? Don't they tend to be people who tend not to be, tend to do well academically, or we're not sure about that?
I don't
know.
know.
Plenty of PhDs from Oxford.
Some could be.
They can't logically connect ideas. It's unbelievable. But anyway.
Yeah, some could be ultra intelligent. I mean, educated. For example, that NYU attorney, and I believe a Princeton grad who's an NYU or Yale attorney. I believe they got caught for throwing Molotov cocktails. Douglas Murray. I don't know if you heard of him. He's written numerous books on the curious case of Europe, meaning like it's dying. The number one name in London is Muhammad now for a boy. He wrote that, I believe that in his book that I read years ago. But he says, you know what else? People are caught up in a fervor of living in a history of saying, hey, I am now living in the modern day French Revolution. So these are people who, as you would say, never been part of anything, or they want to be part of history, and they're willing to just go into it. Hey, man, you deserve it.
Yeah,
may I say one more
doing well
thing?
at the moment, man. Good. Cheers.
I'm using the New York Times, so no one can tell me I'm off here. Biased, right? 9 out of 10 New York City restaurants can't pay their full rent. From last month. This is from September 23rd, New York Times. And on the 30th of this month, finally, you will be able to sit in a New York restaurant and eat, but they can only have a 25% capacity. So these owners of these restaurants,
how can they possibly survive?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
All right, please. Can we get to the chase? What's the point of this? What are their ends?
I think the point is, let's say Cuomo, he's concerned with numbers and death, and that's all he's concerned with. They keep using the word empathy. He has no empathy for people that own a business and capitalism. He's never worked or had a business. He's never employed people. He's had one job working for his father and being in politics. So I really believe he's totally out of touch. And I do believe, I laugh when people try to compare Trump and Obama and the economy. I said the whole basis of the Democratic Party now is anti-business. Why the hell would Obama's economy do well? They're anti-business. Whatever they could do to soak the business to pay for maybe their programs is one thing, but have you ever heard these people be pro-business? So I think that's the case with Cuomo. De Blasio probably wants us to be his divine project where, hey, I created this Marxist dystopian world. New York, I didn't know I'd be able to do this, but maybe we could implement the Green New Deal here. It has to be, Chris, because me, who's just a regular guy.
Yeah, wait. So you think that's what the end game is? To create the Green New
I think for him,
communist utopia within New York?
Yes.
With respect to the rest of the country and the rest of the world, or does he want to blow up? He wants this as a model for the rest of the
country. Model, of course.
All right. Are they? I mean, the talk about wanting the end of America and for America to be one with the New World Order, that type of thing, which has to be corporate, I would imagine, right?
Start somewhere.
Well, there's this
we got cut off there.
Yeah, there's this funny. There's this funny marriage between the billionaire class and the Bolsheviks. I mean, I don't, so the New World Order that they're talking about must be corporate based. So, we're supposed to be little slaves for the corporate utopia. Is that what it's all about? Right?
Yeah, these billionaires, as you said, can't be
touched. That's perfect fascism, by the way. That's not, Soviet style communism. Though. We're talking fascism. Ironically,
And these billionaires,
not to
billionaires
keep our brothers here.
Did you hear me?
Say that again.
They can't be touched. They can live wherever they want to live. Mm-hmm. They don't have to live with the consequences of their vote. I did not agree with some of the things you were talking about, but now it's actually coming into focus. Like, Why would Bloomberg spend hundreds of millions of dollars to have Biden win? Why is he so content with this? And why did he spend millions of dollars to pay for bail for felonies in Florida so they could vote? They said he's paid for 35,000 people, felons.
Yeah, well, he's facing federal prosecution for that.
I think it's legal.
He's breaking a great number of laws in doing so. But then again, the billionaire class gets away with murder. By the way, Assange. So some professor had a meeting with Assange, saying that Assange is driven by the idea of killing himself. That seems rather convenient. And of course, even if that were the case, we have to doubt if that's the case. They've certainly brought him to that point. So he's suffering from depression, and he's hearing voices that are moving him towards killing himself. But that would be rather convenient. Dead men tell no tales.
We know for a fact that they could put something in your head and make you think a certain way.
That's quite true too.
Yeah,
they do have the technology for that.
Oh,
yeah.
Come on. Yeah.
From drugs to into 5G, so 5G type weapons.
Yeah, something, I don't know, a laser or something.
I wish we could interview a nice representative of DARPA to ask him what's going on in that department.
Yeah, we could down the road, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But just one more thing here to give you some facts. New York Times again, there are 120,000 apartments for lease in New York. That's a 26% increase over the same months of 2019. Owners have to lower their rental costs. Some landlords are offering 3 months free for people to move in. And there's a record vacancy over the past 14 years. So,
all right, so is it an exaggeration to say that Cuomo and de Blasio and AOC and Schumer and Pelosi and so on and so on, and Nadler and Schiff, a lot of them are New York based, by the way, California based. But it's like, is their objective to destroy New York and then destroy, by extension, the United States of America?
Well,
are they really trying to do that? Yeah. Are they trying to blow it all up?
Yeah, as I've said for years.
What I can say is
what that terminology. We would use blow it up, blow it up. They would use change. And their change, I believe, no one talks about it, a Green New Deal, where maybe 40% of us, 50% of us, 60% of us are living off the government. We're getting a check every month, and maybe we're paid not to work. And until I think that's what they want. I truly believe it.
All I can tell you is that they've had 60 years plus where they've chipped away at every institution of the West and of America. Okay, from the traditional family to the sanctity of the womb to a proper understanding of woman and womanhood and the sanctity of being a woman. That's been perverted by the second and third wave feminism. The NFL, sports, big college sports.
All the sports.
NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball. Hollywood,
even college football,
to Hollywood.
Even college football. Think of what they want to do. It dawned on me, and I called you about a week ago. These players think, let's say LeBron James, that BLM or these groups are on their side. If attendance and the purchase of equipment, let's say sporting gear, no one wants to buy the shirts anymore, is down a certain percentage, let's say 25%, let's say 30%, they're not going to be able to pay these wages anymore.
No.
Let's say it even sinks to 50%. What do they think is the long-term goal? They're going to make much less than what they're making. The long-term goal, as I am going to surmise, is to blow up and destroy all of the American institutions that made us great. The sports, football, basketball, baseball, the competitive nature, the Boy Scouts, right? They're bankrupt now. As RGB did, Ginsburg. I believe she wanted, according to Michael Savage, she wanted the Boy Scouts to be open up to girls, to make it a Girl Scouts also, okay?
We already have the Girl Scouts.
Yeah, why wouldn't they have the Girl Scouts? Yeah, it makes
I'm
no
missing
sense.
the logic here. Okay.
Yeah, and someone, just inclusive and everything. So they're doing it with the church, right? There's nothing but a magnifying uh, uh, class that says, all priests are pedophiles. There are numbers out there, priests doing the wrong thing. They need to be handed. They need to go to jail. I've never experienced anything. I don't know anyone else. I went to school for 10 years. But what have you, it's out there. But anything that they could do to weaken or control institutions that made America great, that's where their hands are. I even been watching, Chris, I was watching the golf, a major tournament, one of the majors, the U.S. Open, I believe, in Westchester. By the way, most people don't know this. The best golf in the world is in New York.
Yeah.
Most people don't know. Most people don't know that.
Winged Foot.
Not even, Winged Foot's ranked 6th. Then they have
Stone, what it's called, in the Hamptons.
Chris, there's 8 golf courses on Long Island that are top 100.
Yeah.
There's about 5 or 6 in Westchester.
They rank the best one in the entire world in New Jersey. I think it's Pine Valley.
No, the number 1, I forget what it was. Number 2 was, I think, Pebble Beach, but whatever. I grew up, and my father's a golfer. I always thought Florida. No, not even close. The best golf is in New York. People like Florida because you could golf year round.
Yeah.
But what have you?
Well, which is your favorite golf course, by the way?
I haven't been to enough to tell you.
Well, the ones you've been to.
I like the Waikiki where Greg's a member. But let me just get to the point. I'm watching the major tournament, and there's a push. Even they are pushing diversity in golf. How do we get more minorities in golf? How? Minorities have to want to play. I mean, it's not that complicated. There's a lot of public golf courses. They have to want to play. How do we get more minorities to become brain surgeons? They have to have an interest in brain surgery and focus their energies on that. I mean, am I wrong? Don't get me wrong. It helps to have a 4th grade teacher to push you in that direction, I guess.
Yeah.
But wake up. I mean, it's 2020.
Why is that a value anyway? I mean, why can't we just get people who are interested and who are the best in those capacities?
Because they only want to push a diverse. They believe the strength of America. They believe the strength of America is diversity of our skin color. That's what they believe.
It's an opportunity, but then it takes the wherewithal to enjoy those opportunities. That's it. Anyway.
Many believe the strength of America is not diversity. The strength of America is that we all agree on the greatness of America and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and we work to that goal. That's
the greatness of America is based on the agreement and the unity of a people who have sacrificed themselves for certain fundamental rights and liberties, among which the freedom to speak, the freedom to enjoy one's religion. That's what we're about. And by extension, in the liberty that we provide, the values of equality that we provide, the opportunity for people to enjoy the fruits of their labor. But anyway, so the World Economic Forum and in Davos, they've been promoting the idea of a world reset. I'm not sure what that means, but you can imagine. And I don't want to be too conspiratorial here.
Change on steroids. That's
what exactly do they mean by a reset?
Redefining society.
A political reset.
Redefining society.
Of state sovereignty, the destruction of political borders, and political cultural borders.
Yes.
Are they talking about an economic reset? What does that mean? That means that Bezos is going to give up his 200 plus billion, and he's going to give that to the rest of us? No, they don't mean that part.
No.
Okay.
It means, as Michael Savage said 20 years ago, no borders, no language, no culture. No country is sovereign anymore. Think Green New Deal. Think being taxed probably 70, 80%, where we're all going to live worse than your parents did, but we're going to all pay into some fund that would eliminate greenhouse gases in the next 30 years, which is a dream. So it is a Marxist totalitarian society where that's where we're all going to live. No country's greater than another. Let's wipe out innovation. Let's wipe out pharmaceuticals. I guess think Cuba or something. What do you think?
No, I think we should end it on this note. We should thank Pol Pot's year zero.
Well, no, I want to say one more thing here, if you don't mind, and then we'll end it on that. I listened to Tucker Carlson. He said he put a message on Twitter that Soros was funding all these DAs and it was taken down.
Yeah, sure.
We saw what happened with Newt Gingrich on
Shocking.
Fox News.
Shocking.
I mean, this is madness. What's going on here?
They were screaming in the reporters' ears. 3 of them.
This is madness.
And there was the most awkward pause and stammer. And they said, well, we don't need to bring George Soros into this. I mean, goodness, what? So dirty, corrupt billionaires who throw their money around for the object of year zero, and God knows what persecution and genocidal policies they have in mind, what will come. They're off limits. It's unbelievable.
Right. I couldn't believe it.
It's unbelievable. But maybe what even bothers me even more than this.
Yeah, Bill O'Reilly said he couldn't
more than the
believe it.
impunity of the billionaire class and the political class to put COVID patients in nursing homes, like the way Governor Whitmer and Governor Cuomo did. That's genocide. That's a crime against humanity. To allow abortions up to the 9th month, like they do in France. Can you believe that? Like they do in Virginia, am I wrong? And
yeah, well, the governor said that.
He even said post-birth abortions, which are post-birth murders, he supported. Did he not, in Virginia?
Yeah, he said when a woman gives birth, they'll keep the baby comfortable, and she'll decide what she wants to do.
In a humane way, decide to murder that baby, to drown that baby, or light that baby on fire, or whatever.
It's satanic.
I don't get it. I mean this bothers me more than anything else. What bothers me more than anything else is that the sense of goodness has been turned on its head. There is no sense of goodness from the leftist point of view. Certainly not the far leftist point of view. And there's no sense of truth.
Yeah. Can I just say?
Well, I'm just saying, so if there's no sense of truth, I keep saying the same thing. Then why be so upset at the political leadership that we have? Why be so upset about killing or not killing, allowing the murder or not allowing the murder of a baby in the womb? If there's no sense of truth and there's no sense, and by extension, no sense of goodness, I don't get it.
They have
really what they're trying to say is there is a sense of truth. This doesn't make sense, but their sense of truth is connected to a sense of goodness that we consider in the Judeo-Christian point of view, in the traditional American and European point of view as being evil. That to them is good.
Well, yeah, it's nothing but contradictions. It's subjective to what they want. For example, Bloomberg's giving Biden $100 million. He spent $60 million for felons. Remember, this was spoken out against 3 years ago when Bernie Sanders said we got to get big money out of politics. Fine, when it's on your side, it doesn't matter. So they use it whichever way they can. But I wanted to get to RGB just really quickly, who just passed away, the Supreme Court Justice. Michael Savage was talking about her, and he gave a couple things that she wrote about. And he said she wasn't this wholesome, beautiful person that is being celebrated like Joseph Stalin or something. I heard her body is in Washington, and you could view it.
Washington State, yeah.
Yeah, so he was saying, so I guess she's not Jewish because you have to bury the body 24 hours after you pass away. So
there's no godly connection.
I know.
In the world. Yeah.
Well, let me just say one thing. Do you remember her saying this? And I'm not giving you the exact quote, but she said, when looking at a new constitution, should America's constitution be the constitution that another country should emulate? She said no, she believes South Africa's constitution in 2012 should be the constitution we should, any emerging country should try to mimic because of human rights and an independent judiciary. That's one thing. Savage called her.
Well, that's very strange because she's the author of a non-independent judiciary because the argument is that they're legislating from the bench. They're not simply interpreting the laws as guided by the Constitution.
Savage called her a modern godmother of Bolshevism.
Yeah, sure.
She's a cult leader to the American left.
Mm-hmm.
She was the chief counsel of the ACLU.
Mm-hmm.
She said the age of consent for a sexual act should be 12. Did you ever hear that? I heard that before.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. She said laws against bigamists is unconstitutional, so it's okay to have multiple partners. Savage called her, he said she was obsessed in an odd way. She said it's okay to be a bigamist. It's okay to have a partner who's 12. And he said, I believe, this is a quote, it's not perfect, but her bad grammar of plural pronouns must be eliminated. For example, the word he, she, him, or her. Remember, this is what the professor from Canada.
Yeah.
What's that?
Peterson. She supported that?
So she was against the pronouns like man, woman,
really?
mainland, husband, wife.
Put up in the newspeak of the...
Right, the newspeak that Jordan Peterson talked about.
LGBT.
This is from a book from 1976, page 15 and 16. I believe it was a book she wrote. Man-made. So this is what Jordan Peterson has been fighting the last 5 years.
About she's one of the great architects of leftism, is she not? Oh,
right.
I realize that. Wow.
I mean, in those instances, but she sided with the conservatives on some cases as well. But I find it very telling that the left elevate their people at like God status because they don't have a God. Like Obama's a God, or RGB. They have T-shirts. RGB, like Biggie Smalls,
I never heard the acronym RGB until she died.
Right.
What about you? I never heard that. Have you?
No. But they're trying to say it's like the, Biggie Smalls, B-I-G,
No, B-I-G.
Something like that. Affiliate. Okay. It's crazy.
Okay, fine.
Hey, man, good luck with your dog. I'm sorry to hear that.
Wow, what a year this has turned out to be.
Yeah, but this year is going to even be better.
The Civil War I predicted.
Yeah.
It looks very bad. I think I think we can only rely on prayer and by the power of prayer. And of course, our strength to say no even in the face of danger, but in the face of obvious evil, obvious absurdity. I think that makes all the difference in the world. All right. So, I'm going to say no to evil, and I'm going to pray, like I never prayed before, for a return to sanity in the United States, and that we remove ourselves from the curse of Roe v. Wade. I think that does it. I think that's the linchpin to a true moral renaissance and political renaissance in the United States. Yeah. So God bless. All right, and thank you. Say a few prayers for both if you can. That'd be fantastic. Please.
Peace.